Christmas came yesterday, and it came for everyone, including Deion Sanders and Colorado in the transfer portal, of course.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I am your host, Kevin Borba. Today's episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. It is your team every day for free and available wherever you get your podcast. Thank you for making me your first listen of the day. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. We're talking about a Christmas transfer surprise. As you guys know, Coach Prime is working in the transfer portal tirelessly. He's working in there, trying to rebuild his offense line, trying to rebuild his defense line, trying to get depth at corner, trying to get depth at receiver, trying to do this and that. And guess what? He did just that on Christmas Day. They got a great announcement, one of the bigger ones, I would say. They got an announcement from one Mr. DJ Lundy from Florida State, a linebacker, who announced that he will be transferring to Colorado, adding to their number 2 ranked transfer portal class. According to 24/7 Sports, Ole Miss has surpassed them. It's just Lane Kiffin and Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, just going at it in the portal. They're both up there. They're both trying to get that number 1 portal class. And right now, Ole Miss has the advantage. Coach Prime is hinting at more additions, so maybe they can regain their lead because Colorado was number 1 in the portal for a little bit, but now they're number 2. But what are they getting in DJ Lundy? I think linebacker was sneakily one of their more important positions that didn't do well. I think you bring in a guy like DeMoy Kennedy, you bring in a guy like Levante Bentley, you bring in a late addition in Juwan Mitchell, and of those 3, Kennedy, I don't know if he played much, if at all. I think he had a handful of tackles. Bentley was a starter, lost a starting spot, and then reemerged later in the season. They also lost Ham, who's in the portal. And so what does DJ Lundy bring? Well, for starters, he was a starter. He made 45 appearances at Florida State, had 17 starts, and I think for his 4 years there, had 183 total tackles, 16 and a half tackles for a loss, 5 sacks, a forced fumble, 8 pass deflections, and also recorded an interception. He brings experience. He brings experience from a winning culture as well. And I think that was the hard part, too, that Colorado struggled with this past year is not a lot of their players knew how to win. A lot of these guys came from, or if they did come from schools that won a lot, they weren't a part of it. He's a part of it. He's a big part of Florida State's success. He was a player that they badly wanted to return, and obviously they didn't get that from him. And I think realistically, by adding him, if you're Colorado, you bolster your defense, 1. 2, you kind of are getting a leader. You're getting a culture builder, and I think that's huge for a team like Colorado who had culture problems last year. I talked about it a lot. A lot of people don't like me to talk about it, but when Coach Prime is questioning after the Stanford game, which I think was like week 6, when he's questioning, do you love football? And it's like, that's not ideal. First of all, you don't want a football team to have to hear the question, do you guys even love football? Because that's a tough question to hear in general. And then I think it was week 11 and week 12, Coach Prime is saying, we don't have an identity. That's not great either. DJ Lundy is someone who comes in, you tell him what the job is, he gets it done. Obviously, he's experienced, comes from the state of Georgia. He's someone who 3-star recruit, chose Florida State over programs like Georgia, Vanderbilt, and Virginia Tech, and obviously worked his way into higher standing as a transfer. He's one of their higher ranked transfers. So now let's look at what their transfer portal class looks like, because obviously it's a little bit different now. They've added some commitments over the past few days. Lundy was the Christmas edition. So they have DJ Lundy, linebacker from Florida State. He's not yet ranked as a transfer, so maybe that'll help boost their portal rankings up. They also landed Phillip Houston, the FIU offensive tackle. They landed Samuel Okunolola, defense lineman from Pitt, Chidozie Nwankwo from defense lineman from Houston, Anquin Barnes, from defense lineman from Alabama. So already right there, 4 defense linemen, a linebacker. Then you bring in Walter Taylor, a quarterback, just a backup for Shedeur. He's a dual threat guy that can move. He has a big arm. Probably will not play that much, which is a good thing. That means Shedeur Sanders is healthy and Colorado's winning. The only reason you want to see Walter Taylor is if Colorado's winning by a lot. Quincy Wiggins, another big body defense lineman. This one from LSU. He comes in, brings experience, former highly touted recruit that just didn't pan out. and didn't really play well. Or I wouldn't say didn't play well. He just didn't get a lot of run at LSU. Preston Hodge, a safety from Liberty, more experience on defense. He played quite a bit at Liberty, was a very good safety, winning culture over there. Then you get the Wade twins, quarterback Destin, who's going to be a backup, probably contend for that backup spot. And then his brother Keaton, twin brother, he played a lot of linebacker for Kentucky, which is a good thing. Will Shepard, wide receiver, Chama Monteiro from Cincinnati, Khalil Benson, offensive line, Justin Mayers, offensive line, Terrell Timmons, wide receiver from NC State, who didn't play a lot but has a lot of potential, Tyler Johnson and Yakiri Walker, both offensive linemen. So I think by the portal additions, you could tell Coach Prime heard the issues that this team was having. He heard okay, they can't run the ball. Okay, they can't stop the run. And now he's working on a way to do both of those things. And I think it's a huge thing for this Colorado team because obviously when you have issues in the trenches, you're probably not going to win. And they didn't win. They were pushed around the trenches all year long, and they're bringing in guys that can help stop the run. They're bringing in guys that could get to the quarterback. They're bringing in guys that do everything they needed. They're bringing in guys that could pass block. Obviously, Deion Sanders was sacked 50 bajillion times. And then they're bringing in guys who could help with the run and bring in a few skill position players here or there to make up for the losses. And bada bing, bada boom. And this Colorado team's looking a lot better than it was in year one. And if you're Coach Prime, you have to be thrilled. But he still has some transfer portal wish list items that he would like to acquire, even though Christmas has passed. But first, a word from our sponsors. This episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors over at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit. Only available to U.S. customers. Coach Prime has a transfer portal wish list, and I think he's going to get some of these. I really do. He took to the lovely app to discuss or kind of hint at Santa Claus that although he appreciates the DJ Lundy edition, he would like another gift or a few more. I guess you could say. He took to Twitter, or the app formerly known as Twitter. I don't know what the people call it anymore. I really don't. He says, "Dang." With the little eye emojis. So I looked at her. I saw the portal doing the bank head bounce. Just when I thought Santa was on his way back to the North Pole, he dipped off. Santa, please drop another defensive tackle, cornerback, linebacker, and one more pass rusher to Boulder. I believe, Santa. I believe. And I think that's a great wish list and a great way to show that obviously Coach Prime is really wanting to bolster this defense. I think the defense, when you look at what they were bad at, it was pretty much everything. Let's pull up their rankings right now. You look at Colorado's rankings for everything. Defensively, total defense. They came in as the number 127th defense in the country, giving up 453 yards a game, 6.27 yards per play. You look at their rush defense, because I think that's where a lot of teams took advantage of them. And then it makes everything more stressful on the secondary and stuff, because you know that you have to help support the run, but you also have to help do everything. Their rush defense, 107th in the country. They gave 176 yards rushing per game, 4.7 yards per carry, and obviously not good. And then you go look at passing defense, passing yards allowed. They were absolutely torched. And that is no surprise, because obviously Travis Hunter can only do so much. They ranked 124th in the country, gave up 277 yards of offense or passing offense a game, which is by any means not the most ideal, I guess you could say, because realistically, if you can't stop the run, you can't stop the pass. What can you stop? And they weren't getting pressure on the quarterback. So they bring in all these guys who can bolster the defense line, who can get to the quarterback, who could cover. DJ Lundy is going to help stop the run. DJ Lundy, I don't know if he's going to put a lot of pressure on the quarterback, but he's going to be in position to try to pressure the quarterback. Quincy Wiggins, he's someone who obviously you need to step up. You look at a name like Anquin Barnes, defense line, 6'4", 315. You need him to step up. Chidozie Nwanku, he has experience at Houston in the Big 12, was quite productive. And then you get Samuel Okunlola, excuse me. His name's going to kill me. I'm just going to call him Sam O, and that's what I'm referring to, the Pitt transfer. He has experience. He got to the quarterback quite a bit. He was in the backfield making plays. And so Keaton Wade, a linebacker who has experience. So they are bringing in guys who are going to bolster this defense, but they're not done yet. If you look at the transfer portal right now, because I'm going to pull up the list right now, there's guys that are still in the portal that Colorado should pursue, that Colorado could obviously use at anywhere, really. You look at like a guy like AJ Harris from Georgia, a corner. Maybe he ends up in the SEC. Maybe he doesn't. His teammate, Nyland Green, was ranked higher than him, ended up at Purdue in the transfer portal. You look at a name like, we'll just go top uncommitted as well, because obviously we don't care about the committed fellas. Good for them. Damani Jackson from USC. He was a former 5-star commit, former 4-star, 5-star guy. He was really good. Tackett Curtis, highly ranked linebacker from USC, goes to USC, doesn't have the production that he would have liked, or doesn't have the role he would have liked. Who knows? He was a solid guy. He was someone who started the year for the Trojans, and then they end up it was one of those things where they started him, but then he ended up, I won't say lost a spot, but he wasn't he wasn't in the same role, I guess you could say. Then you go and look at Corey Foreman, former 5-star from USC. A lot of USC guys, if you guys aren't getting that vibe. But Tackett Curtis had 24 solo tackles, 2 sacks. He had to finish the year with 40 total tackles. Maybe Colorado could lure him to Boulder. Corey Foreman, former number 1 overall recruit who had some production, just didn't really seem to fit in USC's defense. This past season, he didn't do much of anything. He had 1 total tackle. But in years past, he had a combined 23 or 22 total tackles, 2.5 sacks as a freshman. Just needs to be unlocked. Maybe Colorado could do that. Maybe they can't. There's also Jeremy Caldwell, defense lineman from Houston. He's the big get from Houston. If you could get him, this line may be one of the more, I guess, physical lines in the Big 12, which obviously Utah's there as well. So that's a lot of, I wouldn't say hope, but I mean, it never hurts to have a physical offensive or defense line. And Jamboree, let me tell you, let me pull up the stats for you real quick. Jamboree Caldwell, teammate of Chidozie, 6.5 sacks, 1 forced fumble this year. I mean, someone in the middle who could stop the run, who could get to the quarterback. 6.5 sacks is pretty good for a defense lineman. He's 6'1", 325. I'm telling you, that'd be a big one. Derek Harmon from Michigan State. Then you look at a guy like Anton Jukaj from Albany. Huge. There's just a lot of defensive guys in the portal right now, and Colorado could use every single one of them to bolster that defense line. I think Coach Prime saw what his secondary was, and I think he realized that there's a lot of young guys. Maybe it's Cormani McLean who could step up, but there's a lot of room for improvement there. And I think he's trying to get the best out of that unit. Will he get the best out of that unit? I fully expect he will. I think this line, this team as a whole, is taking major steps forward. And I think that his transfer wish list is going to be answered for the most part. I'm going to tell you what I think his Christmas wish list for the roster and where they should improve next year will be. But first, I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Buffs your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. We're talking about what Coach Prime needs for his team, his Christmas wish list. Obviously, Christmas was yesterday, but it's never too late to have a Christmas wish list. Maybe for next year, maybe next December. But I look at this Colorado team, and I think about what exactly went wrong. For starters, they didn't have a run game. So let's go there. Run game. Alton McCaskill's healthy. Dylan Edwards and him form a nice little dynamic duo, and they dominate and kind of perform at the level that we assumed they would the entire year. Obviously, Alton only played in a couple games, then decided to redshirt, and Coach Prime revealed he wasn't back. Alton McCaskill, health. Then he returns to his former form. Well, we'll just tie that into one wish. Then you get Will Sheppard. Coach Prime probably wishes that Will Sheppard steps into that Xavier Weaver role and kind of takes over as the lead receiver for the Buffs. Obviously, they have Jimmy Horn. Obviously, they have Travis Hunter. Obviously, they have Amarion Miller. Great. Jimmy Horn, I think, struggles to be the leading receiver. I think there's a reason that they brought in Xavier. There was a reason that they brought in more receivers. Obviously, they wanted more talent, but I think Jimmy Horn gets on himself really easily. I think he's too hard on himself. And so sometimes I feel like he takes himself out of the game. So having a guy like Will Sheppard kind of be that number one guy and allow Jimmy to not have to have all of the pressure, I think that helps. So we're getting running back production out of Alton. We're getting Will Sheppard to step in and be that guy. And then I look at a tight end like Chaman Matier. He's someone who I think realistically adds another dynamic to this offense. They had Mikey Harrison, who I think he did well for what he was. Mikey was a former receiver turned tight end, couldn't block, and obviously he was a walk-on. Probably should have gone to scholarship, but didn't end up getting one. Now he's at San Diego State with Sean Lewis, where I imagine he'll have a good chance to play, a good chance to be one of their better players. And he showed that he could play at the highest level, Power 5 football or Power 4 football now. And I think getting the Cincinnati transfer, Mateer, he could block, he could catch, he could do everything. He adds a different dynamic. I think he's going to help out this offensive line. And I think he gives Shedeur another big target. There's also Cordell Russell, who I think could help out at receiver. He just hasn't done anything at the college level yet. He's 6'4", 210, former 4-star, borderline 5-star type of guy, and just didn't put everything together, or something didn't work out at TCU. I think the biggest wish on Coach Prime's wish list is an offensive line that could protect his son and establish the run. Colorado gave up 56 sacks. They were only able to register, I think it was like 2.5-ish yards per carry running. And that's not going to get it done. Colorado has a chance to contend in the Big 12 if they can improve their trenches. Obviously, that's a big if. They're bringing in Jordan Seaton, the 5-star, who kind of had that whirlwind of a recruitment where I was like, oh gosh, what is he going to do? Will he, won't he? Will he do this? Will he do that? I don't know. But Jordan Seaton's a buff. They bring in 5 other offensive line transfers. Plus, you have Tyler Brown, who didn't play this past year because of the NCAA, which really unfortunate because the NCAA just allowed multi-year undergraduate transfers to play right away. And Tyler Brown was obviously a multi-year undergraduate transfer, or multi-transfer, excuse me. He didn't get to play. Savion Washington was a starter at right tackle. He's there. They have other guys who were from that offensive line this past year who are there. So you bring in a nice plethora of experience. You bring in better guys who are better at pass blocking. And maybe this offensive line improves. Maybe it protects Shedeur Sanders better. Shedeur Sanders put up huge stats with arguably the worst offensive line in the Power 5, if not college football. And he was putting up monster numbers. Imagine what he does with the clean pocket. Imagine what he does not having to worry about getting blasted every day. Imagine what he does healthy. Obviously, no football player is ever healthy, but getting sacked 56 times or whatever the number was, that really doesn't help. I think Shedeur Sanders by week 6 or 7, you could tell he was banged up. He was getting, I think after the UCLA game, they said he was getting injections or something, where it was like he was just hurt and banged up. He's still going to be banged up because obviously he's going to take some hits, but getting sacked 5 times a game probably doesn't help. And so if they could limit that to like 2 sacks a game, or have some games where he's not sacked at all, great. Shedeur's a smart runner. He knows how to avoid hits. Shedeur Sanders is very capable of avoiding hits. But when your offensive line is allowing the defense line to get into the backfield every single play, makes life a little more difficult. So that's on offense. We're getting more run protection. We're getting a huge season out of Will Sheppard. We're getting protection for Shedeur and establishing the run. Defensively, Chris's wish list item number 1, stopping the run. I think you look at a game like Utah. They're playing a JUCO quarterback who's never played at the Power 5 level, never taken a snap at Utah, and they win, Utah does, because they just run the ball and kind of kill the clock and just were out physically in Colorado. Colorado was not physical enough. They had major issues in terms of getting pushed off the line. They had major issues in terms of pressuring the quarterback. So stopping the run, item number one on the Christmas wish list. Pressuring the quarterback consistently. Not only pressuring him, but bringing him down. I think there was a lot of times where Colorado would get pressure, but there's a difference between pressures and hurries and sacks. Sacks lead to big plays. Sacks lead to momentum changes. Sacks kill momentum for offenses. And Colorado didn't have a lot of those moments. They didn't have enough. Secondary. I think this is even including Travis Hunter. Better coverage. I think Travis Hunter is a risk taker. And so for every time he takes a risk and it works out, there's a couple times where it doesn't, or he's tired. I don't know. I don't know what Travis Hunter's, I won't say issue was, but he was targeted a lot in the Stanford game and they picked him apart. He was targeted a lot in other games and they kind of just were like, okay, we're just going to test you and see what happens. And he had a lot of great moments, but there was also a lot of moments where it's like, oh, he is human. We want to see improved coverage from not only Travis, but everyone in that unit. And then no dumb penalties. I think Colorado's offensive line had a lot of dumb penalties, but it was more so because they couldn't block anyone. The defense, substitution penalties, targeting, quarterback, roughing the passer, defensive holding, offsides, everything you can imagine. Colorado is one of the most undisciplined teams in college football. And I think that if you could narrow that down, you could chop those down in half, or if not more, this team is a completely different team. I think part of the penalties where guys who probably shouldn't have been playing as much as they were being asked to play huge roles, and they just weren't able to do that. But now they bring in experience, DJ Lundy, you bring in defensive linemen from Houston, Pitt, who all played a lot of Power 5 football. And you just have to really instill your culture. You have to really instill good habits. Otherwise, this Colorado team is going to be in a similar position as they were last year. But those are my Christmas wish list things for Colorado. I think if they get those things, they'll be a much better team. You guys comment below what you think Colorado needs to improve on. I appreciate you guys for tuning in to Locked On Buffs and making me your first listen every day. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow. 5 stars on Spotify and Apple. I would greatly appreciate it. I hope you guys have a great day. I hope you guys had a great holiday, and I will see you guys tomorrow.